All right, today we have a special treat for you. We've had some people reaching out and asking some different questions or different questions that I've gotten in my different interactions as I'm meeting people out in town as this podcast has picked up steam. Just a sidebar here. We started this podcast in the first week of 2024. We had 500 downloads a week and we thought, man, this thing is cooking. Well, we are now over 5,000 downloads a week. And a big part of that is our guest today. Welcome to episode 37 of the KeyHire Small Business Podcast, where we cover issues that help owners scale their small business. I'm Corey Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, where we grow Texas business with our talent, and I'll be your host. Today, we're doing a mailbag. We got some questions, but we have a super special guest. You guys have always heard me talking to Matt, and Matt, get this up, or what do we have, Matt? What's going on? Well, Matt Wills is my marketing guy, and he's coming on here today. He's been compiling these questions, and we're going to go through them. A little bit about Matt. He owns a company called Luminous Consultants, and they do online marketing. They do content creation. They do paid ads, which is the only way we market this podcast. He's also become a bit of a podcast expert because we started this thing together and we didn't know a bloody thing about podcasts. And here we are, like I said, 5,000 episodes a week and climbing. And we've done that in 11 months, which is incredible. So Matt, bring yourself on, Matt.
Hey,
very
Corey.
cool. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Usually I'm bringing someone else on. So this is a nice change.
So cool. And people are going to be disappointed you don't have your UT flag in the background.
I know. Well, go Horns.
UT anyway. So if Matt seems a little out of it today, he's going through some Thanksgiving woes over there right now, but he's trying to get them sorted out.
Typical travel drama.
So Matt, do you remember when we started this podcast? And it started out of sheer laziness on my part because I wanted content and we were doing a live stream. And I said, hey, can we rip the audio off the live stream? And you're like, why? I said, what if we did a podcast? And you're like, that could be cool. And we had no idea what we were doing. And here we are.
Here we are, almost a year later, 2 seasons, something like that. And
I think we started tracking. I started keeping track in January of this year, but I think we might have started like in the fall or the spring of 2023.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So big thank you to all the listeners out there.
Yeah.
We're so happy that we can provide this information and look forward to episodes.
Yeah. And as you see, if you have any questions or comments or ideas for the show, send them in. We listen. We're always looking for good ideas or any way to help business owners.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So what do we have from the mailbag, Matt?
All right. We're picking some stuff out of the mailbag today.
You have like a bingo thing?
Yeah, I do. Pick a number. All right, here we go. So I have an employee whose performance has dropped from an A to a C over the last few weeks. How do I approach a performance conversation?
Very cool. That's almost kind of in line with our last episode, right?
Absolutely.
Rehiring your employees. So in my mind, I might think of more, but immediately 2 situations come to mind. Number one could be they're not being challenged. They're bored. They don't like the way they're being managed. It's a cultural or a workload issue. They become disengaged. Maybe they feel like they have more to offer and they're not being stretched enough or challenged enough. So in that case, that's where, as a leader, business owner, we need to have the courage and we need to put emotion aside because we're probably upset because this has been someone who's an A, they were delivering, and now we're pissed because they're not, and go to them and ask them. It also could be a personal issue, right? I said it in the last episode. We're dealing with humans. We never know what's going on. They could be going through something horrible or disruptive in their life. So as a business owner, we have to be able to approach them and start a conversation. So I'm still kind of in situation 1. And that's where you need to go to them. A phrase I've learned that is super powerful, and I think we talked about this on 2 episodes ago, was saying, hey, I don't have an opinion here. I'm not upset. I'm just trying to be curious because I want to understand. It seems like something's changed in your world. You're not the person that I'm used to working with. What's going on? And give them a chance and then listen. Don't be defensive. What they might say, I just don't feel challenged. Like there's a new project that started up and you gave it to Matt and I thought I should have got it. Or it could be, I just got some stuff going on at home that's crazy, right? Any way I can help? What do you need? Need some time away, la, la, la. It could be a lot of stuff. It could be I'm having a hard time with my manager. It could be I'm having a hard time with you. Listen and then work to resolve and re-energize that employee. That would be one. So I would call that kind of a culture work side of things. Mm-hmm. The other side of that is something we talk about all the time, where I would look at the company's growth and where was it when this person was an A performer, the revenue side or demands of the employee, and where are you today? So for instance, if that person came in when you were a $10 million a year company and was kicking it in the ass and doing great, and now you're doing $25 million a year, the company might have just outgrown the experience or the ability of that individual, and they need help. And it could be, we need to hire someone above you that can bring us that capacity and experience and mentor you up. Hard conversation to have when this person's been your go-to for however long. I get it. And that's a sensitive conversation, and that's a whole other topic. Or it could be, hey, I feel like you're getting eaten up a bit in this role. We need to bring someone in. Is there another, can we shift you? Can we put you somewhere else? Or if you're really upset with us and you want to leave, like, let me help you because you've been a good employee, but you never just want to kind of disregard the hard work and what they've done to get us where we are. But that's what happens in our world with small businesses, is a lot of times we go in and we hear this exact, in one way or another, we hear this exact scenario. And when you do the diligence, you find out, the person's just overwhelmed. They don't have the experience, the capacity, the knowledge, the skills to dig their way out of this. And they're just struggling. And we got to throw them a lifeline one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. And I think, we have a couple of great episodes on that we've done as well. One with our friend, Dr. Bob, on listening.
Oh, Dr. Bob on
everyone
was amazing.
That one. Yeah, he's incredible.
Dr. Bob Johnson.
Really good strategies for actually hearing people and not just kind of hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah. I tried to put Dr. Bob back on. I asked him to come back on and he's ghosting me. So,
man. Well, everyone go listen to Dr. Bob's episode. Maybe we can get back in touch with him.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Next question. What are some green flags that we should bring a candidate back in for a second interview?
Oh, that's awesome question. Green flags. So we do everything on a scorecard. And if a candidate, the simple answer is, if a candidate has what you need on the surface, bring them back for a second interview and then dive into the cultural aspect of it. But as an interviewer, you should understand what you're looking to hire for. Man, this could get into a really long answer, but the 3 biggest mistakes people make, business owners make when they hire, are they don't understand what they're hiring for. So they hire for the wrong experience or position. They hire for current needs versus future needs. So you bring someone in and within 6 months, they're out of capacity and they're struggling. And number 3 is they don't have a defined interview process to take people through to identify what a green, amber, or red flag might look like. So some green flags are people that can speak in depth about their experience in the areas you're hiring for. So for example, if I were hiring a accounts payable person, and I said, hey, walk me through your accounts payable process. And as a small business owner, just a little caveat, we're usually looking for full cycle AP. And if you hire someone from a big company, AP could be broken into 2 or even 3 different departments. I receive the invoices, I input them, then I hand them off to so-and-so and they match them. And then they hand them off to so-and-so who checks the match and the inputting and writes and gets the check signed, right? That's not a person we want. So that's understanding what we're hiring for, full cycle AP. We would want someone to be able to say, yeah, so when a bill comes in, I'm the one who's responsible to review it. I input it in the computer, then I match it with our invoice or our PO or whatever it is. If that doesn't line up, then I would want to call the warehouse and ask them what they had, make any corrections. If I have to go back to the customer to make sure everything lines up. And then I would, once that is done and everything matches and I enter it and everything balances, I would do the check run. And then every Thursday I take the checks into our president, he signs them off, and then I mail them, right? You would want that level of detail. If they can't give you that detail, they say, oh yeah, they come in and I just make sure we get the checks written. And another important thing to understand is volume. So I understand what kind of volume you're doing. So if we use the AP example again, it would be, we process 100 invoices a week. How much do you do? Well, I do the office manager and I do this. So I might, we only do about 20 invoices a week. I don't know if that person has that capacity or experience. So some green flags would be detailed answers in the area that you're looking to hire for. And the ability to answer follow-ups, I would say, is another big one. And you always want detail. I'll give you a great example. So I have a client and I pre-screened a candidate for them. And after I was done, I said I would not proceed with them. They gave me a lot of general answers and they were taking a lot of credit for the work that I knew a team did. And as I drilled down and said, well, what was your role? Their story would start to fall apart. And then, I would just keep saying, okay, but I get it. You were doing this, but what were your responsibilities? Well, I did this. So that was your sole responsibility. Well, no, then I would do it. Okay. So I would just keep drilling down on questions. And the deeper I got, the less confident I got. And the more you drill down in questions, you should get like, oh, wow, they're really giving me detail. And so the example I gave to my client was he wasn't able to give me detailed answers. And that indicates just trying to overemphasize their experience or just not be totally honest. So I said to my client, I said, tell me about a time in your life when something really cool happened. And she told me about when she was in high school, it had something to do with the volleyball team or whatever. And I said, awesome. I said, so explain it to me. She said, oh, I was so excited. I ran out and got in my car. I said, what kind of car was it? She told me the name of the car. I said, what color was your car? She told me the color. I said, what time of day was it? She said, it was nighttime. I said, what time of year was it? She said, it was cold. It was in the winter. They should be able to give you that level of detail. If she was lying to me about that story, I would say, what kind of car was it? Oh, I can't remember. It was like a small car. What color was it? I don't know. Maybe like gray. What time of day was it? Oh, I can't remember. Like, this is the granular detail. When people are passionate or excited or in their zone of talking about what they really like, or they have that experience, they can give you granular detail. So don't discount that, right? You want the granular detail. Like, you should be able to take them 3 layers in and say, oh, you're processing 100 invoices a week. So tell me about those. Are they, what would be the average or the highest invoice, the lowest invoice? Oh yeah, we process invoices. Some of my invoices are $40,000. Some of them I processed one yesterday for $80. Okay, great. Tell me about what kind of clients do you deal with? They should be able to tell you that, right? Tell me about your computer system. Oh, we use X. Are you good at it? Well, I'm the go-to person in the office. Oh, what do people come to you for? Oh, if they need me to input or make changes or set up a dashboard for them, I'm the person that does that. Great detail, right? If they say, oh, I'm just a person, I can do whatever I can do. I've worked on that. I'm really good at it. That's probably not the level of detail we want. So all that talking to say green flags are detail, granular detail, and never always ask the follow-up. Always ask the follow-up.
Always ask the follow-up, look for those granular details, and then obviously look for experience that's aligning with what
Correct.
your company is, kind of what stage they're at, right?
Correct.
And I know for a lot of small business owners, obviously culture is a big deal, right?
Yep.
You want to build a place where you want to work. So are there any kind of culture green flags that you should be looking for as well to make sure that person's going to really integrate into your business?
That's a cool one. Yeah. And if they speak badly about their previous employer, that's probably a bad one. Here's a red flag. If you ask someone why they left their last job, this is I'm giving away some of my secret sauce here. If you ask someone why they left their last job and they say, well, it was a mutual decision, that's code for I got fired. So the follow-up question, as we talk about follow-up questions, is, oh, okay. So did you was it your decision or was it their decision? And if they say, well, it's kind of both of ours, my final one is, so if I were to call and ask for a reference, would they say you resigned or you were terminated? And that's generally, they will say, well, I guess technically I was terminated. And that is a huge red flag for me. A huge green flag for culture is someone who's, I say, hey, how come you left that job? And when people say, Corey, I don't want to lie to you. I got terminated, but here's what happened. And then they walk you through. Obviously, they're giving their side of the story, but the fact that they had the courage and the honesty to at least say, and you're allowed to ask questions like, so what happened with this manager, right? And sometimes they'll say, yeah, like it was a new manager and they wanted to bring their own team in, and that's pretty common. And sometimes it just adds up, and you'll listen and you say, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Sometimes you'll dig in and you're like, okay, maybe you had a little bit to play here. I interviewed someone the other day and they actually said, I said, why'd you leave that job? And they go, you know what, Corey, I was young and I probably could have been a better employee. I let my ego get in the way and a new boss came in and we just didn't see eye to eye. He was trying to get me to do things differently. And if I look back on it, I was in the wrong there. Like I probably could have done it better. I love that stuff. Like open, honest. So culture green flags are that. If you ask about teamwork, right? Like, tell me about the team you work in. You want people who are very clear about this was my responsibility and this is what I did. But as a team, here's what we were able to accomplish. You'll know where they sat in the team based on the title they had and what they were doing, right? A red flag is someone who tries to take take all the accolades for running the team when they were maybe a support piece. I just like honesty and people that say, I was responsible for this. And I'll say, well, did you get part of this project? And they'll say things like a little bit, but honestly, not a lot. I would have liked to have. It's super interesting to me. I wish I had been able to be more involved there, but I just wasn't. I was really responsible for this part over here. And you'll even give them a chance to take some credit and they just won't. They're like, no, I didn't do that. No, I was really just over here doing my piece. I like that level of honesty and awareness.
Well, it sounds like, it was a mutual decision and it's kind of like a bad breakup or something, right?
It is, but it's a huge red flag. I mean, go through those progressions, right? Absolutely. Your decision or their decision. Mm-hmm. Well, and normally I'm going to say 80% of the time they'll go, I guess it was their decision. Okay, well, walk me through what happened. But if they're like, no, it was no one's decision. That's where I say, does your record of employment say terminated or resigned? And that's where they'll go, oh, I guess it would say terminated. Okay. So you've been lying, just tell me the truth.
So again, I mean, it's just getting into more details, get as granular as possible on both fronts, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, here is an interesting one. I don't have an employee that I would feel comfortable promoting to our open management position currently. Should I work to train an employee for that position or should I try to hire externally?
Oh man, that's a goodie. So if there are a couple of factors, if you want to move this person up, you have to have time and you have to have a plan, and you have to have a timeline. Promoting someone, giving them the promotion, and hoping that so back to my hospitality days, it's like the promoting your best server into a restaurant manager. They take a pay cut, first of all, they lose money, they work longer, harder hours, and they have way more headaches, and then they quit because you don't train them. You take money out of their jeans, you make them work longer, they deal with all kinds of crap, and then you don't support them. So they're like, I'm going to quit, go next door and be a server over there. So now you've lost your best server and a manager, right? So if you're going to take a really good employee who's really good at what they do, the first thing I would say is, do you want to be a manager? And if they say, oh, maybe that could be fun, they don't want to be a manager. If they say, yes, I want to be a manager, they want to be a manager. Resist the urge to convince them, because 6 months down the road, the jig is up and they're going to go, oh man, you hosed me. I told you I didn't want this job. You told me it was going to be great and it sucks. Right. So you can't just throw them in the fire and hope they're going to be successful, because everyone's going to be disappointed. You got to put a training program together, make it a casual or a gradual progression into that role. And then put some, after 3 months, you should be here. After 6 months, you should be here. After 9 months, and after 12 months, you should be able to run the show, whatever it is. That might be a little long, but if they say, I don't want it, don't convince them, bring someone in. If you don't have the time and the ability to give them the right training. So if they really want it, but you can't give them the time or the training or the timeline, now you might upset them if you bring someone in. So that's where it's, I guess if you're going to bring someone in, you're going to allocate a lot of time doing that. So maybe you just have to say, okay, I'm going to carve out the time if you think it's someone worthwhile, or you don't have to do it yourself, right? You have a team that can help, and maybe have them spend 1 day a week kind of learning that role. And it's not immediate relief. It's very gradual relief, but at least when that person's able to take on that role fully and really help you, they'll be more than ready, versus having them in there fighting fires and calling you at midnight because the building's on fire. Those are my initial thoughts on that. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I think, hiring internally, and promoting internally, obviously that's going to increase your recruiting power in the future when you can go to those quality candidates that, you really want to work with and say, we only hire or we only promote from within.
Yeah.
Right. At that same time, though, kind of inverse as what you were saying, if you're going to promote someone internally, then you better have a plan on the back end as well to make sure that those responsibilities that they're taking care of are still, are still being fulfilled.
You just made me think of something as well, because I always, I actually ask my clients this when they say, there's a great opportunity for advancement here. And I'll say, great. When's the last time you promoted someone? And then they're all like, I don't know. So there's no opportunity to advance. We can't tell people that if it's not true. Mm-hmm. And if you do carve out some time to promote from within and create a training program, and it enables you to tell a much more compelling story to people coming in. If you say, hey, we're going to start you here, but you'll have an opportunity to advance. And they say, oh yeah, well, has that ever happened? And you say, yeah, right there. And in fact, they're going to talk to you next. Ask them all about it. And then they're going to say, it was great. I did it. And then we talked about being in management, and they put me in this really great training program, and they took their time. And when I finally took the job on full time, I didn't feel overwhelmed. That story in itself is a very powerful recruiting tool.
I absolutely agree. And, maybe in this case, if there's already an open management position, then maybe you just don't have that timeline, and you can keep that person and say, in 6 months, 9 months time, then, when we have another position open up, then we can discuss that and kind of like what our requirements there are if you're still interested.
Yep.
But if you're on a really short timeline, I think definitely the worst thing that you could do is take one of your best performers, put them in a new unfamiliar role, and eventually push them out just because they're sick of it or they can't handle it or whatever it is.
And another thing is you could always bring someone in a fractional person to support that individual and help train them and give them the support and kind of a bit of knowledge transfer at the same time. And maybe that would be something that would land right in the middle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Let's do one more.
Do one more?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a good one. Our turnover rate has spiked in the last 2 quarters. Due to the nature of our business, we cannot allow remote work. How can we get our turnover under control?
There's like 1 million elements that you would need to consider. Just give me a second here. Well, oddly enough, this goes back to last episode where you want to go back and talk to your people. I would, we can sit in the Ivy Tower and demand people, this is our culture, this is what we do. And I always say every culture is right for someone. You just got to find those people, and it takes time. But if it spiked in the last 2 quarters, that would kind of indicate either something has changed in the business, could be a leader, maybe you brought someone in, or could be the leader from question 1 who just got overwhelmed. They went from an A to a C, and they used to be super competent. Now they're overwhelmed and they're snapping at people and they're micromanaging, doing that. So it could be that. I think maybe the first step is to stop and investigate. Like what changed 6 months ago, and start having not confidential, but conversations with individuals. Again, starting with, I don't have an opinion. I'm trying to gather facts. I'm just being curious. Like what has been happening the last couple months, or what have these people said to you before they've quit, or call the people that quit and said, like, what happened? What's going on? I want to make the business better. And I need that information. It takes a good deal of humility. You can keep trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. It might work for you. I don't know. But as small business owners, the one superpower we have is our ability to be agile and deal with things quickly without the bureaucracy or having to go to home office or through corporate or whatever it is. So I would definitely be having some honest conversations and doing a low key investigation, right? Like what is going on here? If it's in a certain department, is it across the board? And there's a lot of factors there. It could have been you guys experienced some explosive growth and the people are overmatched, or they don't feel like they have the resources, or they're working 12 hours a day and no one has come to them and said, don't worry, we're hiring some backups for you. We realize you're undermanned. It could be any number of things, but I think it all starts from a business owner being humble and getting curious to say, what am I not doing? What am I missing here? What do we need to look at?
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree. This question is very general, so it's hard to kind of obviously nitpick one specific thing that might be causing that. It could be a new bad policy that was implemented. It could be a manager that isn't getting along with people. It could be, whatever it is. But I think that first step is just opening up that line of communication, listening and saying, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling in your position? Why, what are you hearing? Kind of thing. Absolutely.
And no recourse. And the other thing is, I just realized they stipulated we don't allow remote work. And that could be, again, when you're hiring, not telling people but what they want to hear to get them in the door. So if you are 100% in the office, but in the interview you're saying, we allow some flexibility, or we're working on a plan, but you're just saying that to get them in, they're going to realize you lied to them pretty quick. And then they're like, oh man, I got lied to. There's no chance. I don't want to be in the office all the time. And sometimes as business owners, we will state our goals or where we want to go, our aspirations as current. The example I use all the time is, you might hire someone and say, oh, you're going to love our team. We've got a great team. And then the person starts and they all hate each other and it's toxic. And they're like, what? This is not a great team. But what you should maybe have said is, hey, we realize our team's not great. We're really working on improving our culture. And we see you as the first step moving towards that new culture. So hang in there with us because it's going to be a little rocky here for a bit, but we're really working on making those improvements. It's a very different message, right? And it sets the expectation. So if you are 100% in-office shop, you need to set that expectation up first, like right off the bat, and don't mislead people about that, because since the pandemic, I hate talking about the pandemic, but salary and benefits, I would say, were the 1-2 main negotiating points. Now it's benefits and schedule over money, right? People will take even money across the board if they can go from an in-office to a remote schedule. I've even had people say, I'll take a pay cut because I'll save so much money in commuting to work at home, or it's hybrid. I've never gotten so many messages back to people saying, sorry, Corey, I'm only looking for remote work. Well, it's a hybrid schedule, not interested. So, and the people that are willing to work 100% in office represent about 20 to 25% of the working population for what I call flexible roles. So roles that could be done from home. If you're on a CNC machine all day, you can't do that from home. But if you're in administration or HR or marketing or sales, or there's lots of different roles out there that I class as flexible, right? You could do it from home or from the office. If you require people to be in the office 100% of the time for a flexible role, you're only drawing from a roughly 20% of the population that are willing to accommodate that. It's a small target.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're missing out on a massive amount of talent. And not only that, I mean, I would think for retention as well, that remote work and flexibility in your schedule could be a big benefit.
Yeah, it's true. But some people just say, I hate remote work. I hate hybrid. I love being in the office. But it's just a small group of people. Plus the radius by which you can recruit for people is a lot smaller when you're looking at it in office, because they got to commute every day. Yeah. And commuting is people will say, I don't mind the commute. Well, the one day you do mind it, and someone calls you and says, hey, I have this new job, and you're like, I'm fed up. I'll listen. It's closer to home. What? It's 5 minutes from my house. Keep talking, right? A commute is people can't do these long commutes for very long unless it's really worthwhile for them.
Right. Just unsustainable. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we want to do one more. Should we?
Okay, give me one more. I think
wrap it up. Okay, one more.
Reality is I could probably do this all afternoon, but we don't have additional room in our budget, but a critical employee is in danger of leaving. How can we persuade him? Okay, so that's cool.
That goes links back to our last question a little bit as well.
Yeah. So if it comes down to cash, critical employee, you need to do a cost risk analysis on that, right? If they're asking for 5 or 10 grand, which is 10 grand is $400 a check. How much is it going to cost if you lose them? It'll cost you more than $400 a check. So
not just in money, but in time and training,
everything. Oh yeah. It'll cost your business way more than $400 and probably in perpetuity. I don't know if you'll ever recoup that, because if it's a critical person and they're really good, the odds are the person you bring in to backfill that role is going to ask for similar pay as a person who left. And again, we lose all that productivity time and training, and we don't know if they're as good. We don't know if they're a culture fit. We don't know how they're going to assimilate into the team. It's a lot of risk. There's a lot baked into that pie. So it's just easier, safer, and cheaper to keep the existing person. But if money is a non-starter, you could look at negotiating other things like PTO, schedule. But you could also look at the opportunity of bonusability. What if you can't afford it now, but you say, look, if you sit here, if you stay with us, and at the end of the year we hit this mark, or you meet these goals, oh, we'll bonus you X amount. There's all kinds of ways you can negotiate people. If they want to stay and you want them to stay, I have to think if you get together, go for lunch and like have an honest conversation and are both willing to work on it, you can make it work. But the problem is we get stuck in and like, well, I can't afford that. Well, you might be able to, it might not be cash. It could be any number of things. So, and they might not be looking for cash, right? We don't know. We got to have the question. And I guess the theme of all of this is, as a business owner, humble yourself to the point of being curious and go to an employee and don't go in and say, so I want to work. Let's talk about this. That's not going to work, right? Go in and say, look, I understand where you are. I wanted to let you know. I'm not mad. I don't even really have an opinion about this yet. I'm just curious because I want to understand where this is coming from and how we can fix it. That's what I would say about that one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just that level of authentic communication with, whoever this employee may be. And it could be something as similar or as simple as, I feel like I'm not learning anymore in this position and I'm bored. And you can say, well, I can offer you this training and we'll have this position opening up in X amount of time. And at that point, if you're doing the training, we can consider you for that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of approaches that don't necessarily need to be strictly monetary for this, but it is important definitely to consider the downside risk. I mean, you will lose a lot more than the 10 or 20,000 that they're asking for.
Way more
if you let them go.
And what if they ask for 10 and you say, I can't do the 10, I could do 5 and
right.
They might say, oh, okay, I'm listening. That's cool. Cause one of the, and small business owners can use this. I just don't think it comes naturally, but one of the great things when we negotiate with candidates for our owners, one of the most powerful things we have is being able to say to a candidate, when we give them an offer that might not be where they were hoping it would be, being able to say, I'm giving you this offer, and I know the dollar value isn't where you're hoping, but let me explain something to you. We're a small business, and we've come way out of our range here to try to give you the best offer possible. We're not playing hardball here. This is honest to God our best offer, and it's more than we planned on spending on this role. But we're so excited about the opportunity to have you join our company that we're willing to spend the extra money, and it's not what you want, but it's the best, absolutely the best we can do. And I hope you understand that. And the common response to that when I say that to a candidate is, Corey, thank you for telling me that. That makes a difference. Yeah. And now the negotiation changes because they say, okay, so you guys are like emptied the coffers here for me. I get that. And it means a lot to me. So then they'll say, okay, is there anything else we can do? Well, what are you thinking? Right. And maybe that's where they say, okay, well, they might even say, then that offer is great. I'll take it. Or they might say, okay, well, I was hoping to get a little more there, but what if I got an extra week of PTO? Or, then they start maybe throwing out some things, car allowance. Can we do a car allowance or whatever it is, right? And like I said, if you want to get creative, there's a lot of ways that you can work with people to show them like, look, we're not playing hardball. We want to work with you, but in terms of cash, man, we broke the piggy bank open. There's nothing left in there. But it's more than we planned on spending, but we think you're worth it. It totally changes the way a negotiation goes, in my experience anyway. And that's just something, as we represent our clients, it's easy for us to say, but it would be neat to see a business owner, again, just say to a client or a candidate, like, man, I'm spending more money here than I ever thought I would, but I think you're worth it. And I'm not trying to play hardball. This is it. This is all I can do. Right. So let's talk about it. Versus this, they offers and negotiations, people always want to make them sticky, and I try to make them as easy as possible. Right. But
yeah. And it's just starting to build that relationship
They start understanding who they're working for, and you start understanding a lot about them.
Which then you're building culture right there. That's a big step.
And trust and all that good stuff. Yeah, that was awesome one. That was a great way to end it. That is Matt Wills with Luminous Consultants. I've worked with Matt now. We got to be 4 years. We're going to drop a link to his business in the show notes here. My only caveat is I hope you all call Matt and work with him. But if he gets to the point where he says, Corey, I'm too busy to work with you, then he's firing all y'all and he's going to stay with me. No one's allowed to take him away. Awesome. It was great to have Matt on the show finally. And so thank you guys for tuning in to Small Business Podcast. If you got value out of today's episode and want to keep up to date on our new content, make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Let us know if you have any questions you want us to answer for you. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever your favorite platform is. Or you can click the link below and go right to our website and sign up to get regular updates on our new releases. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Harlock. And until next time, stop grinding, start growing.